and that gold would never hit the market if it was approved. And China's standing in front, and Russia's right behind them. And there are others who would rather have gold than dollars. And so that gold's never going to hit the market. I just got a email from someone in Canada who is probably listening that said that the local coin dealer said that gold was going to go down further because the IMF was a seller. And the gold dealer obviously didn't know what they were talking about. I mean, you got to think these things all the way through. That's why people listen to this program, and that's why they subscribe to the International Forecaster, because we think these things through and try to figure out which way things will go. And we've been proven right over and over again. And again with the Chinese situation, with them being buyers, it's natural. And so it's going to be a big help, I think, to the long-term gold market and the attitude towards gold as real money.
An email came in on regarding that. This is from Terry. He says that he has read that the IMF is asserting a property claim over the 12.9 million ounces of... Wait a minute. I have read that the IMF is asserting a property claim over 12 million ounces of IMF gold. The IMF asserts that the property claim arises out of 12.9 million ounces transacted between the IMF and Mexico and Brazil starting in December of 1999 through April 2000 that were book entry sales, not physical gold sales. The property claim is an end run around Congress. What institution would have the ultimate authority to decide on the IMF property claim?
The Illuminati. And, you know, the property claim is a challenge, and it probably would be defeated. And it's because they don't control anything. The international organizations are controlled by the Illuminists in the United States and in Europe. So the Chinese wouldn't get a fair decision. And they don't care what the Chinese think. You know, you got to remember that up until the 1980s, the Chinese were wallowing around. And the only thing that picked them up was the beginning of the access to export markets throughout the world and the promise that they would be included in the World Trade Organization. And if you stop and think for a minute, you'll know that once that decision was made to include them, that it was going to change China dramatically in the years to come, which it has. And they probably say to China, look, you would be back there wallowing if we haven't opened our markets for you. You know, we know you're holding a lot of dollars, and we know that you'd like to get rid of them, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. We gave you a big break. You did us a favor. We did you a favor. We don't want you to abandon the deal that we've set up, because if you do, that's just going to lead to problems. And I think, you know, that's the way the conversation would go with them, and they know that. And they, you know, China's beset by the same problem that other nations are beset with, and that's expansion. They get too many people. They got to get rid of them, so maybe they can expand and send them to Mongolia or Kazakhstan or other places. And the rest of the world knows that. And so, you know, you got to sit down and make a deal. I think China is frustrated that they can't make any kind of a decent deal. But they also got to remember they wouldn't be where they were if the guys from Western Europe and the United States hadn't let them in. I mean, just think of it. I mean, in Vietnam, they were supplying the war material up until 1972 to the communists who were running North Vietnam and eventually the country. So that's something to think about.
Will there become a point where they get big enough and positioned when they have their military and their blue water, whatever you want to call it, what is it called, their blue water
port,
where they get to the point where it just doesn't, they don't have to
do what the U.S. and
Thank
Europe
you.
wants them to do?
See what a headache does to
I
you?
think,
You can't think.
You know, I think that I kind of described that in what I said, in as much as you want war, you got one. I mean, again, it serves population control. And that's a very important item for the Illuminists. They believe that 80% of the people in the world shouldn't be here. Now, this is why they have wars all the time. They finance them and promulgate them one right after another. I mean, you know, read the book by Leon Degrelle, Hitler at Versailles. World War II was planned in that rail car at the end of World War I. And all of the things that happened in Weimar Germany and in Europe during those years, during the 1920s, was all a lead-up to the ascendancy of Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler. And they were financed by the European and American bankers. And for that matter, the Germans made a deal with the Zionists. And I'm sure most Jewish people don't know that, but they did. And but that's what made those things happen. It wasn't a spontaneous result of a line of random events. These things are planned. And they've been doing it for centuries. Only they've never gotten this close to going for world government and lots of people knowing about it. This is the first time ever. And that's why I've said on programs before, if they're unsuccessful, they're not going to live to do it again, and they know it.
This question, he just wants your comments. He wants to know if you knew whose birthday it was when the USA celebrated Earth Day on April 22nd. And that was
April 22nd is the birthday of Adolf Hitler.
Lenin, a.k.a. Lenin. Vladimir.
Well, when is Hitler's birthday? It's around the same
time.
Yeah. So it was Lenin, huh?
Uh-huh.
Ulyanov to his friends.
And he says, what a coincidence. He says, aren't we communists now?
No, but we're close to it.
And this is, there's two comments regarding the flyover in New York. It says, his first comment, then he sent another. He says, regarding the photo shoot maneuvers that took place over Lower Manhattan today, he says, with the two F-16s and the military 747, not one local official was told about it in advance. Demonstrates the utter contempt for Americans, the arrogance and evil character of certain individuals high up in the Air Force. Only law enforcement and the FAA were notified in advance. The psychopaths within the Air Force amused themselves with the fright they knew would be caused among the vast public who would otherwise have been alerted to the event by local press and radio. And then he goes on to say, it's been reported Mayor Bloomberg said it defies the imagination, referring to the F-16s and the military 747, and that the mayor went ballistic over the incident, saying he would have canceled the photo shoot if he knew about it. People were evacuated by some office buildings as a precaution, so they risked damaging buildings in New York just to do a photo shoot.